Good morning, world! Welcome to the Career Cafe podcast, brought to you by Talion Academy. My name is Edward.
I'm Josh. Today we're interviewing Scott Kruger and John Ramirez.
Classic.
Alright. What's going, guys? On yourself? Good.
Alright.
Okay, so what does a graphic designer entail? Like, what does it mean to be a graphic designer?
Oh man, that's a broad statement.
Like, what's the job? What exactly is it?
Well, graphic design, I think Scott can agree with me, can mean many things. For instance, I do illustration as well as brand consulting. It could be as simple as someone painting that to someone actually designing the intricacies of a shoe and how the shoe works. Josh could probably, or Scott could probably even say that there's even, I know, why would you?
I don't know, man. Names.
Josh. Scott.
There we go, Josh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hit the hat.
Yeah, even the stuff you guys get here at the school, the little pictures that you get, all that stuff needs someone to design it. Your glasses, your shirt, everything. So graphic design is a huge
Thing in the world.
It is.
Yeah, there's a big blanket about what it is, but essentially, a lot of graphic design is the art of communication. You have a message that you want to get out there to somebody, you hire a graphic designer to best present that message, be it in art form, in a poster, typography, you name it. That's what you utilize a graphic designer for.
That's amazing. Alright, now Scott, as a communication specialist, what are other types of work you do besides graphic design?
For the communications part of it, I handle, for where I work, which is Cal State San Bernardino, for the theater department, I deal with all the communications like press releases, our social media accounts. Like I said, it's the art of communication, so it kind of encompasses all of that. So yeah, I talk to newspapers, I talk to magazines, I talk to radio, I talk to whoever I need to talk to in order to try and sell tickets for our theater. So
That's cool.
yeah.
And what education or training did you need to take to get to the graphics designing?
School of Hard Knocks.
I was just gonna say that. Oh, man, we're thinking the same thing. Yeah. For me, it was a school of hard knocks. So I came about this. I mean, in high school, I think we both took graphic design in high school. Was that what we were looking for as we get out of high school? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I was a manager for Stater Brothers. I did engineering for the housing. So yeah, so did like plans and everything, and then I became a graphic designer. So yeah, I've always been able to draw. It's something that I had a talent for. You know, when I was your guys' age, I would draw comic book heroes and
Cool.
yeah, and I loved graffitis and cartoons, so I would kind of mix those two. So, like out of high school, I didn't think, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to go to school and do all that stuff. So I taught myself how to use the programs. I got on the web and just started looking for clients, and you build your style. Like for me, because it's so heavily with illustration, I have a specific style that clients are looking for. So, you know, through social media is huge. You know, Instagram, I get most of my clients from there.
Yeah.
So they see my work, they know what they want, they come to me, and then I try to help them out. So.
A little different from me. I did graphic design in high school before it was really called graphic design, because I graduated high school in '92. So I used to work on our school newspaper, and I was doing the layout editing back then. And I was taking long strips and columns of paper and putting them down on a big sheet that would be photographed. I had no idea it was graphic design. But whenever I graduated, I wanted to just get married to my wife. I didn't care about going to school or anything like that. So I ended up going into the medical billing and all that stuff, and eventually wound up at the Art Institute. I had had enough of corporate sector nonsense and wanted to go get a design degree, and I did. I got a bachelor's degree in design and immediately got hired by San Manuel Casino, and then I did a lot of stuff for them, from illustration down to doing billboards and big building-sized designs, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, like him, I used to draw superheroes. I loved Batman.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm a big fan of the Joker.
oh yeah, there we go. When I started at the Art Institute, I was going in for animation, and so I was going to be an animator. And I sat there and I'm looking at like the number of drawings you had to do, I'm
Yeah.
like, I am not that committed. I can draw once and make something cool with it. But,
Yeah, that's funny because I thought the same thing. I was like, I got these programs, like, all right, I'm gonna learn how to animate.
oh yeah,
That's what I'm gonna do. And then just
Oh,
like him,
no.
I was like, oh no, that's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
it's a lot. I've got a friend that works for Warner Brothers right now. That's what he did. He just focused on drawing, and now he's directing Batman cartoons.
I'd
That's
rather
awesome.
be a direct or a storyboard artist.
Yeah, but hey,
Yeah.
it's a lot of drawing.
Yeah.
So, is it a stressful occupation?
So I work for myself, and the stress comes from anytime. It doesn't matter what business you have. As far as like, I mean, it could be a clothing brand. It could be any business you have.
Yeah.
You can be mowing lawns. It's always chasing the dollar. So yeah, you get the clients to you, but you're always chasing the dollar. So in that sense, it's stressful. As far as the work itself, only time I get, I'll have deadlines is if, for instance, I do work with Disney over in Orlando.
Oh, that's
so
pretty cool.
yeah, they're Disney design group. So I'm actually really quick at what I do. So they'll contact me and be like, oh, you got about 2 weeks to do 23 illustrations.
Been there.
Yeah, and I could do it, and that's why they contact me. So that's about the only time I really get stressed. Other than that, for the most part, the people I work with are like, oh yeah, when you get it done, you get it done. So
I've had a couple of stressful jobs where you're working at like the casino, and there's deadlines, there's money on the line, and one little wrong. We had a guy that I replaced. The guy I replaced put one wrong number on a phone number, and that phone number went to some place that you don't want to send people to. So he lost his job over that. And I mean, that was the kind of microscope you were under in that position. And it really does depend on who you're working for. I don't want to do what he does and be my own boss. I'm like, that's not where the insurance is that I need. That's not going to pay my, it does pay your mortgage. But
It
it's
does.
tough hunting down that next job. I wanted a job where I could get insurance, where I had retirement funds. I wanted all that stuff. So.
and that's an option too. I mean, I've been approached by companies. I don't know if you're familiar with Spray Ground backpacks.
I think so.
Yeah, that's a pretty big name. And they wanted me to move to New York, but it just wasn't feasible for me to move to New York.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So the
Same.
job offers are there.
Mhm.
Element Skateboards. I had a job offer with them. What's the other skateboard? A couple of skateboard companies, but it just wasn't feasible for me to work for them in that and move into those environments. So I just kept where I'm at and just waiting for a situation if one does appear where, like Scott, it is nice when you do work for someone and you do have the insurance and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also nice that I have the option that, hey, I can just leave it and just work for myself as well.
Yeah.
I,
More comfortability.
Well, there's plus and minuses to both sides.
Yeah. I fell into the one I'm in right now. It just, I happened upon it, I took it, and I wouldn't leave it for the world. The only stress at where I am currently at is whatever I bring to the table myself.
To go along with that too, though, you have to put yourself in that position to be able to fall into something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You do. So you have to have, if there's something you want to do, I always say put some hustle behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that hustle mentality. You can't just be sitting there going,
Be a go-getter.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The more you're a go-getter, it seems like those guys are the ones that get the good jobs.
Yeah.
So, what is your artistic process? Like, how do you get about to your illustrations? Because everyone else has their own different way of getting to it.
Right. So generally, for me, a client will approach me and say, "This is what I want. This is the type of design I want." And for the most part, their idea is okay. But then when you have to translate that to a T-shirt design or a hat design, it might not work. So you try to coach them in a sense of like, okay, this is what's going to look good, or this is what's going to look good. Because a lot of times the clients are approaching you, they have no artistic ability. That's why they're approaching you.
They want to throw the kitchen sink at
Yeah. Trust me, you'd be amazed at some of the things that people want you to draw, or the requests you get. It's ridiculous. So when I finally get a concept, what I do is I do a lot of research. So most of my computer is filled with just images. So I don't want to copy something that someone else did, because believe it or not, as an artist, if you've seen it before, you'll draw it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it could be for a second, but you'll draw it and you're like, I know I've seen this somewhere. And it'll be a picture that you saw like 3 years ago. So I do a lot of research on what I'm doing as far as the type of image. That way I'm not copywriting anybody. so that whatever that I produce for the client, it's legit and it's original.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, that's kind of my creative process. I sketch it out, give it to the client. It's just usually a pretty simple sketch just so they can see, because most of the time I just redraw it in Illustrator anyway. Or I'll just draw it in Illustrator to begin with, just depending on, like you said, the creative process in which I'm doing. So
Time restraints too.
yeah,
Not
time
really
restraints,
what-
yeah. Or ease of design. If it's
Mhm.
just easier to just draw it in Illustrator, I'll do that.
Same process. Meet with the clients, get a feel for what they're looking for, try and educate them as to what the best method for delivering that to them will be. Sketching out some designs, taking it to them, showing them those sketches, having them choose what they want, going back to Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, whatever you might need, and try and knock it out. And then always make sure you have some kind of a clause in there for a number of changes
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
allow a client. Otherwise, you'll be working on the same project for
Yeah,
a year.
and that's what I try to tell guys. I'm like, look, if at the sketch stage you want something changed, you need to tell me now. If it's something I could change in Illustrator as I'm drawing, I don't even worry about it. I'm like, okay, I'll change it. And I tell them, I was like, minor changes, don't mind. Minor tweaks, don't mind. But if you want something completely redone,
Full redesign.
then you're going to pay twice. And like he says, I usually tell guys right up front about that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're all into it.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, I was really like
That's
hook,
all right,
line,
man.
and sinker in there.
Yeah, no worries.
What do you use when you work, and what programs or tools?
I think we both use the same programs.
Yeah. Your best tool, it's going to be a cheesy answer, your best tool is your mind,
Yep.
man.
It is.
It really is, because if you can't get a concept out of your head, you're not going to get any farther than that.
And it won't matter what programs you have. You can have the best programs in the world.
The most expensive programs in the world.
Creativity.
Yeah.
You got to have the creativity. You got to have the direction you want to go in. Because you can, Scott could probably account for this. Sometimes someone will give you a project and you're just like, I'm not feeling this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not feeling it. And it takes you a while. And I guess that's the best way I can describe that, Philly.
I've got a technique to get over that, and it's something I was taught in school. Is that if you hit a stumbling block, draw something you're really familiar with. Just grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, draw yourself. Draw a self-portrait, draw a superhero that you know like the back of your hand. Just draw something to reset your brain. Come to it with a fresh set of eyes, and usually you can really do it.
Yeah, because sometimes you just get that project and it's like,
Yeah.
You mentioned that you used Illustrator, so
Yeah.
is that like this program you use for digital drawings?
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
that's
you
the
know
best
what?
one.
It's the best one because you can literally draw something this big, you know, an inch by an inch,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and blow it up to,
The size of a building,
Yeah.
and it will not lose any of its integrity.
and the file won't get any bigger.
Yeah.
The only time the file gets bigger is when there's a lot of detail in it and what's called a node.
Mhm.
And that's a specific aspect in Illustrator that you use to draw. When it gets heavy with those, then it gets a little clunky, but it's the best program to do any kind of illustration. And you could do a lot of different blends and meshes to get that Photoshop look as well. So to me, it's probably hands down, if you're going to be a graphic design, that's probably the first one you should know, because Photoshop's good, but it's a raster program. So you guys ever zoom into a picture and you can see all the squares?
Yeah, little pixel.
Yeah.
Right.
The
Well, in
difference between
Illustrator-
a pixel and a vector.
Yeah.
And a vector is just a pure line.
Well, this is more for me. I use Photoshop because I'm a hobbyist photographer, and
Okay.
that's where it's more better.
Right. Yeah,
For-
it's definitely better for photo manipulations, cleaning up backgrounds, you know, cutting out images or whatever you need.
But it's not good for like typography.
No.
You don't want to use it for typography or anything like that. I work, 90% of my work is done in InDesign, which is also a vector-based program, but it's kind of, I always explain it to my students as it's the glue that kind of holds everything together. You use InDesign to make magazines, well, you can do posters in
Posters,
Illustrator too.
both of them. Yeah.
But anything that's multi-page is what you want to use InDesign for. So if you're looking at the latest issue of Gamer magazine or something like
done
that,
in InDesign.
it's done in InDesign.
Yep.
Because you can drop your photographs in there, you can do all the typography in there, you can do illustrations in there directly in
Yeah.
InDesign. So it's
And what's nice about that too is if you have an image, right, you cut out a nice image, you can actually use Illustrator tools and manipulate the font to go around it as
Mhm.
well. So it's just a wonderful program. It's like I would say it's like Word, but on steroids.
Yeah, it is so much easier to use
Yeah.
than Word. It's
It's
incredible.
free form. It's a great program. So.
And also, it's just once you know the tools and the shortcuts and stuff in Photoshop, it's an Adobe product, so it translates over into Illustrator. It translates over into InDesign. You just need to know how to use the tool. But they're all the same.
Yeah, and what's great about that too is like if you do draw or if you have an image in Photoshop, you can link it so that if you make changes to that photo, it changes automatically in InDesign.
Yeah,
You don't have to reload it every time.
That's cool.
it's fun.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
You already mentioned that you work commission-based, so how do you get your clients? You were talking about social media.
So when I first started, I would get all my clients on Craigslist. I went to all the major cities, New York, Seattle, all the major, Chicago, and this was like 10 years ago, and I would look for people looking for freelance graphic designers. And they didn't pay much, but it started me getting work and designs. And then eventually once I found my style, which I think for all artists is probably, when you develop your style within the programs, every artist has different ways of doing things. If you go on Instagram and just look at different artists, you can tell by what it is, who drew it, if you know the artist. And so finding that signature took me a little bit of time. But once I found that signature, I got on social media, I stopped looking for work. It just comes to me now. So that's what's
cool.
that's what's really nice.
You see what you're familiar
Even
with.
Disney, the way I got Disney is one of their head artists was following me on Instagram, liked what I did. He had a project coming up, so he hit me up, and that's how the relationship started.
That's amazing. Because
Yeah.
Disney's a good one to keep.
Yeah.
It's a good one for their resume.
Yeah, and Element too. Element Skateboards, the owner of Element, who started it back in the day, followed me on Instagram, liked me, had me come in, and we started our relationship that way as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you're saying that you have a job, so you're just given projects to work on, or?
Not only that, but I also do a lot of, I was telling him earlier, we do, personally, I do a lot of action figure packaging for friends and different conventions and stuff around.
Oh, that's cool.
Excuse me, I do there's a brewery up here. I'm actually the graphic designer for that brewery. I'm a part owner, so I do all the work for there. And it's just, I seem to have people just kind of throw things at me all the time. I don't have time to go out and hunt for anything. It's just, it just kind of hits me.
I do graphics for a brewery. My friend from high school graduated. It's called Rowdy Crew.
Rowdy Crew?
Yeah, and I do their graphics as well.
Desert Barn Brewery.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's my family's brewery. So,
Nice.
yeah.
A lot in common.
So this one's kind of a hard one. So what is your
Oh.
favorite project you have worked on?
Oh man. All right, so my favorite is with Disney. It has to be with Disney, and it's called March Magic.
March Magic?
Yeah, and I did 2 years of it. I didn't get to do this year's because of the whole shift when they bought Marvel, and they're just all this. They're just shifting.
About
Yeah.
Star Wars?
Yeah. So I did 2016, 2017 March Magic, and I just loved that project. And I think next year I'll be able to do it again. And they like I said, Disney throws me a couple projects every year, so they're really good to work with. I really like them. Pharmacy, I've done some stuff for Pharmacy skate shops
that's
as well.
cool.
Yeah. So I know the owner, Donnie. Actually, him and my wife went to high school together. So I like working with him, but I'd say March Magic is probably my favorite.
That's cool. That's
My favorite shifts. It depends on what I'm kind of working on. I can honestly say that one of the most rewarding was going to the brewery and seeing the sign that I designed on the building and seeing it lit up at night and all that. I'm like, oh, I'm proud. I did that.
Yeah, that's got to be cool to have
Yeah.
that feeling to see like, oh, wow, I did that. Like, that's my work.
It was cool because right out of school, I'm working at the casino too, and I'm driving down the road and there's a billboard I designed. I'm like, wow, that's cool.
That is cool.
Actually, that brings up a funny story. It made me think of another project that was really cool. The Teens Choice Awards,
Oh, yeah.
how they do the surfboards. Well, whatever reason, some guy from Craigslist answered it, and he happened to be doing the visual effects a few years back. And so I got to design all the surfboards with all the winners' names on them.
Oh, that's cool.
So he did all the graphics behind it, but I got to actually design the boards so every time you saw a board come up, that was the graphic I did. So that was kind of cool seeing that on TV.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
But opposite of like that question is, what was one of the most difficult projects you worked on?
Oh man, that's probably outweighs the good ones.
Yeah, take your pick.
Yeah.
Almost every project that you start off with, no matter how proud of it you end up in the end, it starts off being the hardest job you've ever had to work on. Just try and come up with the concepts.
Well, it kind of makes it feel like it's more rewarding at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've got a client in Florida that I'm working with, and it's a real estate client. I mean, it's kind of dry, working with the real estate agent and all that. It's nothing flashy,
Yeah.
So just trying to get their design down, and that's been a challenge.
Yeah. I would say the most challenging is when you get the clients that don't know what they want.
Always switching it up.
Yeah, they don't know what they.
Unrealistic expectations.
They don't know what they want. They want something.
I want it color, and I want a lot on there, but if we could really do it in black and white, and then you get those clients where they don't know what they want and they're throwing everything out.
I'll give you an example. I was doing a barbershop logo, which, for whatever reason, barbershops are, these guys are really into graphics right now.
Yeah.
So
Very hipster feel.
right.
Yeah.
So I get hit up all the time to do these. Guys want their own logos and they want their own brand and all this stuff. So this client said he wanted, it's called Catch a Fade Barbershop, right? Which great name, right? So he's like, and they're out of Vegas. And so he's like, I want to implement the Raiders and all these different elements, right? So I do it. I give him an initial thing. He's like, well, I want it to be sporty, but not sporty. I want it to be about sports, but not include anything with sports.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just laughing. I'm like, really? Okay. So I happen to be, I was kind of the end. There was a middleman that he gets all these kind of clients because he does a specific brand.
Yeah.
And so he was going, me and him were laughing because he's a graphic designer too. We're laughing at these comments coming back. And so he does like a quick sketch for them and sends it. And it's like a barber pole catching, like doing the Odell Beckham Jr. catch where he caught it with like one hand. But it's a barber pole with a football helmet catching clippers.
It's a very animated little cartoon guy.
So I did it for them. They loved it. But I was like, how do you... But they wanted it sporty and not sporty. I was like, whatever. But that's the whole point of it. They don't know what they want.
Yeah. It's part of that education part.
Yeah. So sometimes you're just trying to throw them concepts that they can see, and hopefully one of them grabs.
Yeah. Oh, that was mine? Oh, yeah. That was oh, I'm just too into it, man. Well, how did you guys get into graphic? Well, you guys kind of answered that one already. But
For me, just drawing as when I was your guys' age, loved to draw. Like I said, didn't think I was going to get into it. At the time when I was doing engineering, the housing market had started to crash.
Yeah.
You guys were really young, but
It all fell apart.
It all fell apart pretty bad. So I could see the writing on the wall. So I started teaching myself how to do like logos and pamphlets and brochures for the company I was working with. It got so slow that a lot of times, instead of doing engineering, I was drawing and practicing these programs and taking in freelance. So when I finally got laid off, I was like, you know what, I was going to go back to school, and I was registering over at BBC for some graphic design. I was actually going to do web, so I could just have an extra thing to be able to back up as well. And I got a call from Sprayground Backpacks, and that they kept me so busy I couldn't eat. And from there, from the Sprayground Backpacks, in fact, if you guys get a chance, you look at the shark backpack that they have. That's the one I designed, and they've used it since then.
Just like a random kid just walking around with a shark backpack.
That's my design, yeah. And they've used it ever since I designed it, 7 years ago. And so they kept me busy, and from there, it just like ASIC shoes, and everything just kept falling into place, and it just ballooned into where I'm at now, and being able to make a really good career working from home.
That's really cool.
For me, it was starting drawing starting drawing. Wow. Drawing as a little kid. My grandmother taught me how to draw whenever I was about, I don't know, as soon as I could pick up a pencil. And we would just sit in front of the TV, watch Adam West Batman, and draw Batman, and draw the Hulk and Wonder Woman and all that. And so a lot of my art throughout my life is kind of tempered by that superhero, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Star Wars, Superman, Batman, all that stuff. You can look at my artwork and you can see the influences in there sometimes. So that's when I started.
That's cool.
So you kind of already touched on this next question, but like what inspires you for your job? Like what keeps you going through some of the more difficult jobs?
Well, knowing that I have to pay that mortgage and help my family, so it's nice to be able to do something you love, and at the same time be able to take care of your family and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of jobs in this world that aren't the greatest, but that's why
This is not one of those.
No. But if you have that hustler mentality and you want to do what you want to do, you can get there. And you just have to remember there's always going to be peaks and valleys. Nothing is 100%, and you just got to keep hustling towards what you want. And I think we're both happy, that we're able to draw for a living. Mm-hmm. He has a nice company that he works with the college, and and I've built myself a nice little freelance base where I can get clients at any time.
For me, it's not only being able to do that, but where I work, I'm allowed to bring on an apprentice designer. So I've been teaching too. I've been teaching graphic design, the basics. I get 1 quarter with them, so I throw the kitchen sink at them just to see what I can get to stick. And seeing that light come on is very rewarding whenever you're teaching them how to do this stuff. And also the theater, since I work in the theater, part of my job is to make the lobby that everybody walks into and an environmental design to bring them into the show. So whenever they arrive, I like to see the look. I like to see people's expressions whenever they walk in and they see the stuff. They're like,
"Oh, it's amazing!
Oh, wow!" Yeah, it's like one of our last shows. We did William Shakespeare's The Tempest, but we did it instead of a boat crashing or boat sinking, we did it as an airplane crashing. So as everybody was walking in, I turned the lobby into an airport terminal. So I had the signage up. I actually had one of those big security stanchions they had to walk through and the whole bit, just to get them into that mindset that they were about to sit in an airplane, and then we crashed it. So it was kind of fun. It was a lot of fun.
All right, well, to wrap things up, I'm going to give you guys our last question here. What advice would you give to someone wanting to get into graphic design?
Run.
Head for the hills.
No, just he's been saying it a lot, and that is just determination and be a go-getter and just work, pay attention.
If you really like the field, find the place that you would like in the field. Because like you said, that first question, graphic design is broad.
Yeah.
If you're more of a computer guy where you like to do lines and stuff, there's a place for you. There's a lot of line art and things that have to be designed. If you're more of a creative where you want to do that, get into that side of it. It's just a broad field. So really kind of hone in on what you love about graphic design, and then hustle. Get it. Go to school if you have to. Do whatever you have to do if that's what you want to do.
That's all the time we have for today. We would like to thank Mr. Kruger and Mr. Ramirez for taking the time out of their day to be a part of our podcast.
And don't forget, make sure to follow Talion on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.